Welcome everyone to the webinar tonight. We have an amazing guest that's going to go through what's happening in the crypto market and the new era of crypto wealth for investors. So it's an exciting time. Look, everyone's confidence has taken a bit of a hit with the current cycle, but what we're here aiming to do today is just to give you a little bit more confidence about what's happening in the market so that you can make some positive steps in your knowledge around what's happening in the crypto world. And there's no other person better to do that than Mr. Ed Ludbrook. He's the owner and founder of Wealth99. He's a very deep analyst of financial markets and been doing that for decades. So looking forward to learning more about what's happening in the crypto market and what's happening in the world that's going to be positive for investors over the next cycle. Welcome, Ed.
Thanks, Grant. Good evening or good morning, wherever you're watching this webinar, or if you're watching a recording. How are you? Look, it's actually a really exciting time in the crypto world today, simply because prices are at a level whereby, given all the good news that is actually hitting the industry, as Squid and I were talking about before, it was like, you know, in the early days, if we've got one bit of good information or news every week or so, we'd be overjoyed. Now it's like a tidal wave every day. So really positive things. But at the end of the day, you've got to have the right mentality. And a lot of people look at crypto as just some sort of thing, a one-off gamble, or they don't take it seriously. And now that the market is evolving, and I'm going to talk about that, what's happening is that people need to approach this with what we call a high growth investor mentality. And so I'm going to cover that. I hope you watch this presentation a couple of times so you understand what we're talking about. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. I'm sure you can read the slides and understand what we're talking about. So let's get into it. So what the next crypto wealth era means for investors, that's you. Now, obviously, this is part of our educational series. Take this information, make your own decisions about the future. The question really is, are you ready for the new crypto wealth era? And that's what we're going to talk about, because, look, investing in any volatile market, the professionals will tell you it's all about getting prepared with strategy and then positioning yourself so you're getting the right assets in the right amount and getting ahead of the market because of the research that you do and the confidence that you've built, because a lot of people struggle with that. And so when we look at the crypto market today, so long as you understand that the value, the credibility of a cryptocurrency is based not on the trading. You see, assets are being traded, but the ones that have real durability and investability are the ones that have the most developed blockchains underneath them, or they have real potential to grow. Now, in the early days, in the pioneer days, we were trying to work out, the market was working out what are the really big problems that this technology will solve, and then who is winning and competing to provide that into the marketplace. And even though people rave about this multi-trillion-dollar industry, in reality, when you look underneath in the ecosystems, we wouldn't be 1% of the potential. And that's important because it's that turnover, that potential in fees that drives the value of those coins. And we're now at the stage where we're moving into the mainstream. We know that because all the news is dominated by major financial institutions and other organizations that are using this blockchain and cryptocurrency technology. And when we look at the major use cases, which are stable coins, which are solving all the problems, which can solve all the problems that we have sending money around the place, and then RWAs, which is real world assets. So what happens is, by using this tokenization concept, what happens is that people will be able to buy, sell, and store the major traded assets like equities and bonds and other major assets. And what also can happen is that there are other projects that can go on the blockchain. things like what are called private markets, documents, identity. Every time they put an asset on the blockchain and a transaction occurs, a fee is paid. That fee goes to the blockchain and builds its power. Now, when you look at those predictions with McKinsey, world's leading strategic consultancy, says that real world assets, so those bonds and shares on the blockchain, that will grow from $30 billion of value currently to 2 to 4 trillion within 4 or 5 years. That's 100 times growth. And as I said, it's all about those transactions creating fees, driving the value of the blockchain and therefore the cryptocurrencies. When it comes to stable coins, Chainalysis is saying 25 times increase in the turnover of stable coins. That is the situation today. When we talk about when we talk about all this news, it's news around stable coins, real world assets, and the infrastructure that's happening. Now, this mainstream means that the pioneer wave is consolidating, and we're seeing that in the assets. So there are thousands, tens of thousands of cryptocurrencies have been launched, but this now is focusing on the few that have the credibility. You have the big capitalization. We talk of the big six. And if you want to know what those are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Binance Coin, and Tron. Big six, we know those because the value is much higher than all the other coins. They have proven ecosystems. They're trusted by the financial world. You add metals to those. So those are the big, large cap investables. Then you have the ones that are either part of the infrastructure, but they're not a big blockchain, or they have potential to become one of these big investable coins, or they're very specific to a market. I've been reading recently about Stellar, which is focused on the financial markets. It's started to create great results. Now, those medium cap coins, and there's not a lot of them, there's maybe 20, 30, 40 of those potential in that market. When you look at what gives them credibility, it's the underlying ecosystem, but also the value to be a global cryptocurrency, to be attractive to the global markets. You have to eventually have $1 billion market cap. Now, you may have $10 billion, but you've got to have a high market cap. And so when you're looking at coins being able to reach that, you've got to understand that's the sort of value. Now, the smallest ones are called small caps, and they may be tiny, literally $1 million, $2 million, 10 million. They may be new, but what they have is the potential to become a medium cap. All right, they could be a large cap, but they've got the potential to the medium cap. So when you look at them, the reason why people get excited is that if they're a $10 million market cap today, they should be able to hit $1 billion, which is where you get that sort of 100x excitement around those opportunities. So that's the first consolidation, because all the other currencies we think will eventually become zombies. Okay, they may have a value, but no one's trading in them. Then when it comes to the regulations, what's happening is the Americans under Mr. Trump there, they are putting out the Stability Act. I'll talk about that in a second. But also there are regulations going through in places like the UK and Australia. And what that's meaning is that the market is changing, where you have institutionally focused organizations or retail focused organizations. You've got local regulation. The fact that a platform is regulated overseas, people just simply won't trust it because they want it to be regulated within their country. Also, there's a separation of platforms. So when you look at an exchange, it may offer a trading opportunity, also to be able to use for payments, but also to be wealth. Okay. Now, if you've been involved with the crypto industry, you say, well, so what? Well, the reality is that they're very different organizations. It's like you don't have all of your wealth and trading on one current account, do you? It's always separated, especially the wealth side, and we're going to talk about that. And lastly, you have security. And currently, most people don't really think so much about security. And you have what we call retail grade security, which is fine for those people in trading and payments. But if you're involved in the investment world, the institutions have demanded a much higher standard, and that should be the standard for retail investors, especially for something like a self-managed super fund. All right, so this is the consolidation that's happening right now, and it's going to impact this year. Okay, so as we talked about, there's a flood of announcements daily, major announcements of organizations going on the blockchain or launching on the blockchain. You've got this consolidation is changing very rapidly. You're finding a lot of coins are struggling because they're not part of that future. You've got now the regulations, and it's important to understand what they are. So in the US, they want to have clarity about how they operate within a regulated world. This is very important for those major institutions. And the Americans have this act called the Clarity Act, and it's very important, and we believe it'll be the catalyst to the next real push in the industry. And currently it's already passed the Senate Banking Committee, now has to be passed by the wider Senate, and it's expected to pass by the summer recess, because if it doesn't pass by the summer recess, it won't be in place, it won't push the industry, and Trump needs it to happen, because the crypto industry was a major, probably the largest supporter of Trump getting in, and he has the midterm elections in early November, so he needs that to go through. So you can hear him growling at the Senate for not passing it, and we think it'll go through in some way or form, and that will be very, very positive. So that should go through by early July. Now, we also have regulations in Australia, and these are the first crypto-specific regulations. They go in place by the 1st of July. It means that platforms need to operate under what's called an AFSL, a financial license. Wealth 99, we were a pioneer of it. We were certainly one of the first to ever receive one of those, to be able to operate as this industry evolves into other assets, and to give people confidence that a company is prepared to operate under the auspices of what's called ASIC, which is the regulator of securities in Australia. So I told you that there is a specific sector now, that the market is splitting into sectors, and there is one called crypto wealth. It's about investments, okay? Now, you've got to have a specific platform there. If your focus is not on trading or speculating or payments, a wealth platform should be a specialized platform only focused on large cap assets. If a platform says, hey, we've got 1,000 coins, it means, you and I know that 950 of those are basically gambling. It's like a lottery tickets, okay, which are especially a problem with consolidation. You've got to have institutional grade security. You've got to have personalized support for the confidence. You've got to be able to work with financial professionals to help them understand this space and to gain access. And lastly, as we said before, you need to be regulated. And so Wealth 99, we've been a pioneer of this. Those of you that have been with us for a while will know that we've been talking about this for a number of years. We're focused on retail. We're focused only on Australia and the UK, and we're specific to that market. So, look, when we think about what's happening, you've got to make a decision whether you're going to just sit on the sidelines, whether you're just going to get involved like some people do, is just continually gambling on any sort of coin that comes up, or are you going to have this mentality of a high growth investor? And this is what we want you to think about, because it's not just a concept with, I want to be a high growth investor. It's based on your strategy and portfolio, because those of you that have been involved, maybe you have a financial advisor or wealth, what they say to you is that, hey, based on your risk profile and goals, are you looking at a conservative, a balanced, or a growth portfolio? And there are implications of that, of what assets you hold, and therefore what return you get. Now, for anyone under the retirement age, your focus should be purely growth. No point in you owning bonds or any of that sort of stuff. It should be growth assets. And that means you have a return that's different. Now, what's come into the market is the ability to get high growth. And there is a difference in return. And that's the key thing I want you to understand. A growth portfolio should be 7 or 8%. A high growth one is over 10%. And that difference in return compounded over time is dramatic. Now, the rich 1%, they have a very specific world and they get these high growth returns. And if you look at it over time, that wonderful compounding difference of interest, the difference between growth and high growth is often 50%. Last year it was, okay? It's been bigger in the past, but a 50% difference in your return, growth and high growth, should deliver 100% difference in the size of your portfolio from the same amount of money. Okay, over 30 years, it's 200%. So do you understand what we're talking about in high growth? You're looking at this market. So when you look at, over the next few years, we were just doing some research. Shares, given all the stuff with AI, the returns look pretty good around, they're talking about 10%, okay? Bonds, 4%, cash, 3%, you're barely keeping up, if at all, with inflation. But if you're looking for income, obviously, those I highly recommend. Property, they talk about, this is an Australian number, it's 8%. There's leverage involved there. Some people like investing in that stuff, a lot of people don't. But when you come to the really high growth stuff, those sort of large cap crypto over the next 3 years, most people are predicting that, and we're talking banks and financial organizations are talking about pretty big growth from where it is today. The small caps, those are the ones with the 100 times or 1,000 times potential growth. And even precious metals, gold has a very positive spin because governments keep printing money, and silver is a massive beneficiary of the tech world, and it's in deficit. So they're still very bullish about precious metals. So what I want you to do is I want you to just look at that and go, if I was a high growth investor, what would my portfolio look like? What should be the things that I should to capture this market? Because these new things like crypto and precious metals are exciting. Because investing is long-term accumulation, and if you focus on high growth, you've got to accept the volatility. All right, you'll always get that; it's a factor of it. But what you need to understand, and we're not going to go into that in detail today, is that because of technology, it's this blockchain tokenization. You're going to get access to a whole lot of the assets that only the rich can be involved with now. All right. It's going to be what's called fractionated. And so these are further high growth opportunities. And also AI is going to transform advice. So when we look at those high growth assets, I'm not going to go over them again. You can see that you have the opportunity to get in there. But the key thing obviously here is confidence. Okay. And you can have the confidence of a high growth investor. Okay. And the reason you can is because of strategy. You can have competence, which is learning. I don't need to know enough. You don't need to know a lot. You don't need to know 99% of the stuff that goes around in the crypto industry. You simply don't need to know that. But you do need to know certain things, and that will give you the confidence that you know what you need to know. Okay, that's competence. I know what I need to know. And also, if you have the sort of information that we provide into the market, you don't need to know everything, but it just helps you understand and build your learning and confidence. And lastly, if you can, you want this personalized support, just to make sure that you're doing the right thing. The last thing, as you can see in this slide, I talk about mindset. And that's something we're going to focus on a lot about over the next few months, because without the right mindset, you're never going to take the right action, which means you're not going to get that confidence. Because we want you to be asking yourself, do I have a growth focus or an income focused portfolio? Do I understand the difference between growth and high growth as far as my strategy is concerned? And if I'm not taking the right action because I don't have the confidence, what's the cost of that today, but certainly in the future? Okay. And we want you to feel, if you've got the wrong thing, we want you to feel a little bit of pain. So you take the action, which helps you really, especially now, to learn the simple things that you need to learn. Because if you don't have that, it won't power you along. Where if you get to know that information and to join our world, whether it's individually or whether it's a group like this, all of this combines to give you the confidence to take the action to have the high growth investor portfolio and ensure you're successful. So for us, what's critical to this is that you work out your strategy, okay? And to do that, we hope we can help you there, because we want you to look at what you need to do to learn, to understand what really is your situation, because everyone's unique, but also how you feel about risk. Because obviously, if anything is new or volatile, you worry about risk, but you need to understand how it works, which is why even the most successful investors embrace a level of risk that people say, hey, how do they do that? Well, the reason is that it's not that they ignore the risk, they just understand it. Therefore, they don't factor into that understanding sort of irrational fears that don't mean anything. They just need to understand, okay, it's volatile, what's going to happen within that. You need to know what you know and what you don't know, because competence is so important to your confidence. And then simply decide what your strategic approach is. And in this business, it's so simple. It really is. But you've got to make a decision. It gives you confidence that you've made a decision, and that's what you're doing. Guys, this is a very unique time in this industry. And the reason for that is that we're going into this mainstream market because there are assets that you can own that have substantial ecosystems which ensure that they have strength today and growth tomorrow. And those are the fundamentals. The other fundamentals are for you as an investor to be able to build your confidence and therefore become a high growth investor and reap the rewards today, tomorrow, and in the future. And as the great Warren Buffett says, you got to buy those fundamentals even if there's blood in the street, and even if the blood is yours. You got to go into the market and make sure you take action. So I hope you enjoy this educational seminar. I also hope you share it. And if someone has shared this webinar, this video with you, they want you to build your confidence and take the right strategy because they care about you. So we hope that you will share it with the people that you care about. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thanks, Ed. That was a really good explanation of growth and high growth. It's really good to be in that high growth investor mindset, as well as the strategy around that high growth investing as well. Certainly had a big impact.
Everyone wants it.
Everyone wants it.
Everyone wants it.
And the world of investing has changed from the baby boomer days where, they were,
absolutely.
The traditional areas were in high growth back then. But as we all know and feel every day, the world of investing has really changed from the mindset that we were taught when we were kids by our parents and by our grandparents. So we have to come up with different strategies to get back up into that high growth investing. So the digital asset world, the precious metal world, that high growth investment
world.
More
opportunities, isn't there?
That's right. Well, there's a lot more opportunities, but a lot more confusion as well. So we want people to engage with wealth
management.
We've got a global exchange. We've also got an exchange in Australia. The Australian exchange has access to a specialist team. I'm part of that specialist team, which is good. So I encourage you to share the video, gain more confidence, go to the Wealth 99 YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and get all the emails, notifications about the videos up there. We've got some really good videos we've done about high growth investing and what's happening in the market for the last 6 months. So go back and watch a couple of those just to gain your confidence. And I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. And I'm looking forward to sharing some more of Ed's knowledge to you as the months goes through this next cycle post Clarity Act approval. So thanks, Ed. Appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing everyone again on a webinar in the future. Bye-bye.